So with that, I'm going to hand over to Sean.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Sydney Summit Builders Day. As Yuri mentioned, my name is Sean Beath, and I'm an Analytics Solutions Architect here at AWS. Today I'm going to be taking you through a session on building interoperability and data collaboration workloads with AWS. We'll start this session by looking at some of the common challenges we see that our customers are facing when they're attempting to build data interoperability and collaboration workloads. I'll move and look at some of the use cases that we see being built and some of the benefits of using AWS services to build these workloads. I'll introduce two new services that were released last year and take you through a solution design on how you can build workloads using these services before moving into a demo where I'll get hands-on and show you exactly how easy it is to use one of them. Next, I'll move on to a customer story from one of our customers who has been using this and presented at re:Invent 2023 before wrapping up and providing you with some resources for your next steps. Companies thrive and grow on knowing who their customers are. Being able to successfully unify all of your customer data into a single view and being able to effectively collaborate with your partners is a key in driving business value. But we find that our customers are constantly facing the same challenges. Data is often siloed across multiple applications, data stores, and channels. Data is often incomplete and at times even conflicting. And moving and copying data sets between different accounts, environments, and services can provide security threats and can add complexity to your workloads. When we're talking about data collaboration and interoperability, we're really looking at how can we enable the exchange of data between different parties to create better data assets. But before we can start looking at this collaboration, we need to solve for the problems of unifying our data first. Here's a common example we see with our customers. Often companies will be interacting with their customers in multiple different ways across multiple different channels. This means that you have data about your interactions with your customers stored in many different locations. Now this information is all important and useful to be used in combination with each other to be able to drive your business value. So we have a need to be able to unify this data together, but because they're held in different data stores, it's often very difficult and complex to be able to match them across different data stores. Not only do we have a need to unify this data into a single customer view, we also have a need to do this safely, securely, and with governance so that we can control our customers' privacy and we can maintain our own intellectual property. Overcoming these challenges allows you to build a unified customer view, and that becomes the foundation of personalizing your interactions with your customers. The next step after building a unified customer view is building that all-important customer 360. This allows you to build demographic information about your users, about what they're interested in, what their buying preferences are, so that you can make tailored communications and products for them. For example, you don't want to be advertising dog beds to someone who doesn't own a dog. You don't want to be advertising products that are based in Queensland if those people are based in Melbourne. Put another way, knowing who your customers are is paramount to being able to effectively communicate and tailor your products for them. But we see so often that our customers only have partial information about their customers. You only have part of the picture. And that's where it becomes really important to start collaborating with your partners. The partners that you collaborate with will come in many different flavors based on what use cases you're trying to solve. For example, you may need to partner and collaborate with other brands, with publishers, with media platforms or agencies. Really, who you partner with will depend on what your use case is. And you may want to partner with more than one of your, you may want to collaborate with more than one of your partners at once. If we look at some of the data interoperability and collaboration use cases, most of them can be boiled down to into one of these four use cases. The first is data enrichment. Data enrichment is really the process of getting more information about your customers. It's so that you can understand who they are better. So you can understand that that person has, in fact, bought a dog, so you should be advertising pet accessories to them. Media planning is the process of understanding what media channels your customers are present on and how many of their cohort are also present there. And then audience activation is the process of using your customer information to effectively communicate with those customers and the people in their cohort. And finally, as with anything, it's important to optimize and measure the impact of what you're doing. You need to be able to know what you're doing well and what you can improve on and make changes to those processes quickly. All of these use cases will require some collaboration with different partners. It may require one or more, but the thing they all have in common is that you want to be able to collaborate securely. So what we've discussed so far today is that companies want to be able to create a single unified view of their customers, and they want to be able to use that unified view in a safe and secure way with their partners to gather more information and create more use cases. This collaboration can't come at the cost of their intellectual property, and it can't come at the cost of their consumers' privacy. And this is really the problem statement that we've been working towards here at AWS. We wanted to create services that would directly address these pain points. So I'd like to introduce to you two services that were released last year. The first is AWS Entity Resolution. Entity Resolution allows you to match, link, and enhance your customer data records from multiple different data sources. And the second is AWS Clean Rooms. Clean Rooms allows you to collaborate with your partners in a safe and secure environment where you control how your data is used. If we look at some of the benefits that you get by using these two services, the first main benefit you get is this idea of composability. These two services can be used, of course, in conjunction, but they can also be used with many other database services, analytics services, and AI/ML services available in the AWS ecosystem. You'll see today how easy it is to set up entity resolution and start using it with your current data platform. One of the key pillars in building these services was that we wanted to minimize the data movement between different services and data copying of your customer data. So you'll see that entity resolution in the demo today. You'll see how it can be used with your current data lake to query that data in place without making copies. At AWS, we have an extensive network, which means that whoever you want to partner with, be it advertising agencies, marketing agencies, or other brands, they'll likely have a presence on AWS, so you can start collaboration quickly and easily. And like so many of the other AWS services available, these two services are pay-as-you-go, which means there's no upfront subscription, there's no lock-in contracts, you only pay for what you use. So let's now have a look at how entity resolution and clean rooms can be used together. Let's say you have your customer data information coming into your AWS account and landing in your S3 data lake. Because you can have your data coming from multiple different channels, you have a need to bring this data together and create a single unified customer view. For that, you can map the schema of your data directly to AWS Entity Resolution. Entity Resolution can query that data in S3 in place, and you're able to quickly and easily map your schema from your data into Entity Resolution to get started. And I'll show you exactly how this works in today's demo. Entity Resolution can match and link your records across up to 20 different data sources, and you can use machine learning based matching, which uses an in-house built AWS machine learning model. You can use deterministic rule-based workflows to create your matches, or you can integrate with one of our providers. Once you've created your matching workflow and executed to get your unified customer view, the output of that can go directly into S3. So once that output is in S3, you have a unified view of your customers available for further analytics or processing or workflows in your other AWS workflows. One way you can use that is directly into AWS Cleanrooms. In AWS Cleanrooms, you can collaborate with up to 5 different collaboration partners. The powerful thing about Cleanrooms is it queries your data in place in AWS. There's no need for your data to move to a different service or a different account. And what's more is you decide how your data is being used. For example, if you have, say, an email address in your underlying data, and you want to use that data to link with your partner's information, but you don't want that email address to be ever shown in the clear to your partners, that's a rule that you can set. So every partner has complete control over how their data is used. Once you execute a collaboration workload inside of Cleanrooms, you can choose to get an aggregate metric out as an output, or you can output a list of IDs and attributes to be used further downstream in your processing. For example, you may want to use this for further analysis in AWS, so you may want to load this into a data warehouse. Or you may want to use it to activate in third-party tools, so you might want to use it for advertising or marketing use cases. We see here again the concept of using these services for your workload exactly how you need to do it. You can use entity resolution by itself, you can use it in conjunction with Cleanrooms, and you can use it in conjunction with many other AWS services. Let's walk through another example of how you could use these services together. Let's say I'm an airline company and I have a loyalty rewards program. Now, ideally, every interaction I have with my customers, they would use their loyalty ID. So in that way, I would be able to track exactly what they're doing with my company and what products they're purchasing. However, we know, of course, we don't live in an ideal world, and our customers might create duplicate accounts. So we might have one customer that has multiple loyalty numbers. This can be for many reasons. Say they lost their login information of one of their accounts, or they were trying to take advantage of a new deal, so they created another account to create purchases in. Now, if I want to do analytics across my customer base, I really want to be able to deduplicate that information and understand what my customers are doing with my products. For that purpose, I could use entity resolution, where I can feed my customer data in and have it match my records and provide a single unified view of who my customers are and what they're doing. Another example of where you could use entity resolution is if a customer purchased a product without logging into their account. Now I'll have some information to go along with their purchase, and I can use entity resolution to match that with my customer base to identify who it is. This then opens a myriad of other workflows that I can execute based on that user. Now that I know who they are and who they are in respect with the rest of my customers, I can start interacting with them in a more personal way. Now, let's say, for example, I've executed my entity resolution workflows and I've created my single view of my customer. If I now want to create a bundled service or a bundled product with a hotel chain, I need some more information about my customers and their use cases before I can know if that's going to be an effective product. I, of course, have information about where my customers are flying to and from as an airline provider, but I don't have any information about where they stay, what hotels they stay in, and how long they stay for. Likewise, hotel chains don't have any information about where their customers are flying in and out from. So what we can do is use Cleanrooms to collaborate together, provide some analysis on what our customer base is doing, and if a bundled service or a bundled product would be effective for them. By using Cleanrooms, we can decide what information our partners see and how they use that data. And this really gives us a safe environment to provide this analytics without giving our IP to our partners. so that we can effectively make decisions without needing to go too far down that rabbit hole. So you can see how entity resolution and clean rooms are two distinct products, but being used together, they can provide really powerful outcomes. Now we're going to have a look at how entity resolution works in more detail. In this demo, I'll use a data set from a fictitious company who has a set of sub-brands with different loyalty programs. They want to do analysis over their customer cohort, but they know, of course, that some of their customers are interacting with multiple of their sub-brands, so they'll have multiple records in their customer database. So we're going to see how they can use entity resolution to deduplicate their customer data and create a single ID for each one of their customers. So if we go to the demo, we'll see that they've already got their data available in the Glue data catalog. Because it's available in the Glue data catalog, it's available for query using Amazon Athena. This data set has information about their users' addresses, their email addresses, their names, and their phone numbers. And we'll use all of this information in entity resolution to match these users into an individual record. So we'll head over to entity resolution, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a schema mapping. A schema mapping is something that entity resolution needs so that it can effectively read this data from S3. So we'll give that schema mapping a name, and then we'll note that we can bring in that metadata directly from the Glue data catalog. So we've got that interoperability between entity resolution and the Glue data catalog. We'll then set a unique identifier that entity resolution will use to identify unique records in the matching process, before defining all of the columns that we're going to be using for matching. So here we'll select our names and our address fields that will be used to match different records. Next, we can choose what records we want to be present in the output, but we don't want to use for our pattern matching. On the next page, we'll give our input type for each of our fields. This is so we can define what type of data they all are. So for example, we'll define all of our address fields, our name fields, our email fields, and our phone numbers. And this is really so that entity resolution matches addresses with addresses and emails with emails, but it doesn't match names with phone numbers. Once we've defined our input type for all of our data, we can move on to data grouping. Data grouping is where we can combine multiple columns to be the same field when they're used for entity resolution. So for example, a first name and a last name make up the customer's name. All of our address fields are combined to make up a single address field, and that's used in the pattern matching with other data sources. It's here as well that we could use more address fields, for example, if we have the work address, and that could be a separate address group. On the next page, we can review all the inputs that we've put in and create our schema mapping. Once that's created, we can go and create our matching workflow. The matching workflow will give a name, we'll provide our input sources, and again we can see that it can read directly from Glue. So we'll give our Glue database and table name, before also providing the schema mapping that we just defined. It's at this point you can add up to 20 different data sources for pattern matching across your data lake. In the next page, we'll define what kind of entity resolution workflow we want to create. Do we want to create a rule-based matching, machine learning-based matching, or use one of the third-party providers available? And in this case, we'll use machine learning matching. Then we can create an output page, an output location where our final result set will be output into S3. We can then have a look at each of the columns that will be available in our output. So entity resolution will add 4 different columns onto our data set, but the 2 of main interest are the match ID, which gives you your unique identifier for each identity, and the confidence level, which gives you how confident entity resolution is in that entity being a match. You can then choose to hide or hash any of your other columns from your output, but here I'll keep them exactly the same before going to next where I can review my pattern matching workflow and create it. Now when running, this could run for up to a few hours depending on how big your data sets are that you're trying to pattern match. But once it's done, you can start to look at the metrics of the output, as well as go directly to the S3 location. Because this is just a file sitting in S3, it's available for query and use in downstream services. So what we'll do is create a table using Athena, and then we'll be able to start querying it. If I want to see only the entities that it's recognized as being highly probable matches, I can use the confidence level column. And then if I want to have a look at one of my specific matches, I can copy the match ID and filter on that individual match ID to see exactly what entity resolution is defined as being the same entity. In this example, we can see that entity resolution has identified 2 records as being the same person, the same entity, even though they have different addresses. So it's able to effectively identify our customer base and make sure that we have a unified customer set. So we move back to the slides. We're going to see, so that now we've seen sort of how easy it is to start using entity resolution to create a single unified view of your data set, of your customer data set. In that example, we only use 1 input, but as mentioned, you can use up to 20 different data sources as inputs. On the output, on the extract of entity resolution, you have all of the columns that you defined as what you wanted to go through to your output, as well as what input source they came from, what other records are they matched to, and how confident is entity resolution that that was a match. Next, I want to introduce you to one of our customers who presented at re:Invent 2023. ActionIQ is a customer experience hub. They focus on enterprise customers, which means that they deal with large data movement every single day. Ultimately, their product is something where they provide a customer data platform to their customers to ingest, transform, and analyze all of their customer information. Justin Debrabant, who is the Chief Product Officer at ActionIQ, spoke at re:Invent 2023 about how his company, ActionIQ, are working with AWS. ActionIQ have recognized the need to move from a bundled solution architecture into a more composable infrastructure. He spoke about the need for customer data platforms to evolve with customer needs. We know here at AWS that customers spend a large amount of time and effort in building their data lakes and their data platforms. So there's a need to enable customers to be able to use that data in place safely and securely. Justin spoke about how they've started to use entity resolution in clean rooms. So let's have a look at what they're doing. So what they started with was a process to ingest and normalize all of that data into Amazon S3. This process of normalizing involved things like physical address standardization, email address verification, things that really helped standardize their data to make the pattern matching in entity resolution more accurate. They created workflows in entity resolution to create that single view of a customer, and that provided the foundation for the Customer 360 build. This information, the inputs and the outputs, was all held in their customer's environment. So their customers have this ability to look at all of their data at every step of the journey. The single view of their customer information is then used as an input to the ActionIQ platform. Here, ActionIQ can supplement that with further information and create their analysis on the Customer 360 platform. ActionIQ tested this architecture with one of their enterprise customers where they had already implemented a previous solution. They tested it on a large enterprise customer because they wanted to test the ability for entity resolution to scale to up to billions of customer records. And they wanted to test how the rule-based and ML-based pattern matching was able to work with that. And they found that using entity resolution allowed them to get a faster time to value at a lower cost than their previous solutions. AWS is focused on making entity resolution easy to use for non-technical users. And Action IQ described this as being in the Goldilocks zone of configurability. And what they meant by that was it was easy to use out of the box, but they also had the option to configure all of their workloads based on their specific use cases and needs. They were able to do this at a lower cost because, as mentioned before, entity resolution is pay as you use. So you only pay for whenever you're running workloads. What's more is that entity resolution can be run incrementally, which means that you don't need to do brute force batch-based processing across your entire data set every day. So because you're only processing smaller amounts of data, you're able to run that quicker. And because you're able to run that quicker, you pay less. Clean rooms becomes a pretty clear extension from the output of entity resolution. Once you've got your single view of your customer and you've created a customer 360 using something like Action IQ, you're able to collaborate effectively with your partners to gain more information about your customer base. Today I've spoken about the need for companies to create this unified customer view and the challenges associated with doing that. And then I've spoken about how entity resolution can help you create that single unified customer view. We've also talked about the need to collaborate with different partners for your different use cases and how clean rooms can help do that in a safe and secure manner. Throughout this presentation, I focused on the idea of composability, where you can use these services in whatever fashion you need to use them for your use cases. We saw how easy it was to set up entity resolution and how it uses that data in place without having to copy or move it from different places. And of course, these services, as I mentioned, like so many others in AWS, are pay as you go, so you only pay for what you use. If you want to learn more about entity resolution or clean rooms, you can go to these 2 QR codes on the left. And if you want to learn more from Justin Deborah Brandt about what they're doing at Action IQ, you can have a look at their reInvent session that's available on YouTube. If you want to build more skills in AWS, you can go to skillbuilder.aws. And that's really what all I've got time for today. So I'd like to, as you're leaving here today, I'd like to challenge you to start to think about what you're currently doing with your customer data and your customer information, and how entity resolution or clean rooms can help you get more value from your data. I'd sincerely like to thank you for attending today. I hope you've gotten something out of it. I read all of the reviews that people leave for me personally, so I'd appreciate if you haven't already downloaded the app, go to one of these QR codes to download the app, and then rate this session through the app as well. Appreciate your time. Have a good summit.